This has been around. That's the broad assessment. And then there are the more detailed specific examples when you get into policing and infiltration, like 2 Florida officers found to belong to the KKK, ousted over that in 2014. Or 2 high-ranking police officers found to be in the white supremacist group Southern Independence, fired from an Alabama police force. Just consider the horror of a KKK member walking around with a badge and gun. Many minority members of the military, that other piece that I mentioned from January 6th, they say they've seen specific examples of white nationalism there. Almost half of the population of minority members, according to a Military Times poll, and 1 out of 5 white soldiers say they've seen that white nationalism right there in our military. Now, some in government have tried to act on this. House Democrats held hearings on this as recently as last year, where a former neo-Nazi recounted on record how exactly they infiltrated the police.
White supremacist leaders encourage their followers to join the police force as a means to cause harm to people of color. It becomes a goal of theirs is to get around the screening process of police departments. That is talked about in the rooms all the time to make sure that they don't see that we have either neo-Nazi past or neo-Nazi beliefs.
Chilling. What's being detailed there, again, in the context of a growing white supremacist murderous threat that 3 different FBI directors outlined, is the elaborate plotting by some to try to get inside police forces, which of course have plenty of problems even before you get to this particular issue, in order for the explicit goal of, quote, harming people of color. And that's not all. I want you tonight to also consider the direct and eyewitness experience of people who served on the Capitol Hill police force. Sharon Blackman-Malley is a 25-year veteran of the Capitol Police Force. She saw so much racism that she was moved to risk her whole career, none of this stuff is easy, to take on the force itself, the force she served on. And she took it to court with a discrimination suit that first began decades ago. Now, it turns out she was not alone. These kind of cases legally are stronger with more numbers or more witnesses. Now, lawyers knew she'd fare better if she wasn't alone, if she could get 10 or 15 or 20 others to join her. How many did she get in this case? 250. Now, she's speaking out now after January 6th, arguing that some of the seeds of that riot and the response and the problems came from the past records of police leaders and powerful people ignoring what she says she documented. I want you to hear her plaintive warning as someone who wore the Capitol Police uniform about what she felt she would be asked to do were she serving on a day like January 6th.
She's spoken to Black police officers that were at the Capitol that day. They're traumatized. Some in the crowd called them the N-word. Some are injured. They're also scared because they saw a few of their white colleagues show sympathy with the mob.
And then now you expect me to go stand beside an officer not knowing whether or not he's one of the terrorists. And that's what we deem them to be.
Let's listen to her. She served. She did some of this work. And we saw what happened. Jessica Watkins, an Army veteran from Ohio and an avowed member of the far-right militia group Oath Keepers, was boasting about her role there on the 6th. According to federal court documents, she posted online, "We stormed the Capitol today, tear gassed the whole 9, pushed our way into the rotunda, made it into the Senate even." White supremacist boasting. A 43-year-old New Yorker seen smashing an exterior window at the Capitol took a, quote, victory smoke inside that building, the FBI notes. He self-identified, though, as a former Marine, as well as a member of the Proud Boys, or police officers from Rocky Mount, Virginia, who proudly posted this selfie from inside the Capitol. These are police officers documenting their own crimes on the day of the insurrection. We're showing it to you unedited because you should see the message they're giving everyone. This is an exhibit in court now. They're facing 5 federal counts. They have also now, since all that, been fired. This is a complex story, as I mentioned at the top. There are heroic Capitol Hill police officers as well, many that we saw. They protected lawmakers. They risked their lives. They faced down the racism and crimes and threats of the mob, which included, as I'm showing you, veterans and officers in its criminal ranks. I want to read to you on air something that was said. We don't have it on tape, so I can't play it for you, but it's important. So I'm going to read it. A black officer recounting to one writer covering this, quote, "I sat down with one of my buddies, another black guy, and tears just started streaming down my face. I said, 'Is this America? What the blank just happened? I'm so sick and tired of this blank.'" These Capitol riots put much on display. The disparity in the treatment of people who march into the Capitol to break the law and get through it all, partly by overwhelming police, but partly by the disparate treatment, which we've also been documenting, the treatment of white criminals. There's also new scrutiny here on the years that led up to this, on the obviously murderous threat of white supremacist terrorist violence, of white terrorists, not singling them out because they're white, but referring, as those FBI directors did, to the fact that they are white supremacists, so their terrorism is in service of white power. If this is hard to say and hard to watch and hard to talk about, that's part of the problem. We need to document it, face it, talk about it as a society to make sure that when the evidence warrants, we are prosecuting it.